ambassador met me socially through functions at the embassy here, and we attended quite a few of them back then. And I guess he was impressed that I was Lebanese and I was an architect, because he'd been nursing the idea of building a separate chantry rather than renting a suite at the hotel. They wanted their own building. Lebanese embassy as an embassy did not exist then. It was a legation. And the well-known famous Charles Malik was the Lebanese representative. He later became the chairman of the UN.
We had our delegation at the UN in San Francisco when the UN was founded. And our delegate there, Charles Malik, was actually the first ambassador of Lebanon to Washington.
When the embassy became an embassy, they purchased this house, which is behind this building. It was already existent as a residence, a rather nice residence, and that was the embassy for the living quarters of the ambassador. The business is conducted in the hotel suite. They had offices in the hotel up the street, Sheraton Park. The ambassador that I met and became in contact with was Ibrahim El Haddad. He told me, he said, "You will design the building for me." I said, this lot was an empty lot, and it was a residential lot. It was zoned for a residence. I think this building was built in '63 or '64, and is, I hope, Lebanese looking.
Lebanon has had an interaction with Italy for quite a few centuries. Actually, our opening to the West went through Italy, through Tuscany to be more precise, in the 16th century. And at that time we had a prince called Fakhreddin who imported from Italy all the architects, decorator, painting and handicrafts. Since then, since the 16th century, there have been a type of architecture which is typically Lebanese, Mediterranean, Italian, Arab. It consists of arches and woodwork, especially on the inside. Quite complicated, quite elaborate.
I made several sketches for the ambassador, going from modern to this, and this is what he liked. So that sort of set the design. At the same time, there was a World's Fair going on in New York, and the Lebanese had a pavilion in the World's Fair made of Lebanese stone, and it was very Lebanese in design. So we went up there, the ambassador and I went up to the opening of the pavilion, and I noticed in the building they had these windows. I said, I want to save the windows and design and use them in the chantry. They'll be very authentic and they'll go right in with the design. They went up there and went around on the side, or from a Lebanese building. And these little circles and lotus flowers or whatever, where the design was taken from Lebanese buildings. One of which was a Betadine.
The main structure in Lebanon which represent these type of buildings are the old houses and palaces in the Shuf area, such as the Betadine Palace, the Deir Qamar Palace and Mosque and all these areas, which are beautiful touristic areas.
The stone that we used is a buff-colored limestone, as you can see. Unfortunately, it's not exactly a replica of the Lebanese stone in the pavilion, for example, in the World's Fair. That was definitely had a yellow cast to it, more so than this, but it still held the same feeling of design. So we went along with this, and it was done in American limestone, which is very, very difficult to use because you have to have setting diagrams. Each block has to be marked for a specific place in the building, and these inserts and design features had to be numbered and identified so they could go into the exact place when they set the stone. We thought for a while, when the bids came in for the construction, that the limestone might put it out of reach. And it did come in very high because it's a very special technique. But we managed to get the funding for it, and went ahead with the original design. The door was custom made, obviously. It was over thick, a 2.5-inch door. I think that I designed it that way with the lines on it the way it is. The details shown on these drawings, the rosette window, for example, is drawn in great detail so that it could be manufactured of limestone. The design came from existing buildings in Lebanon, of which I had seen photographs and so forth. I tried to adapt as many of these characteristics into this building as I could to make it look more authentic, more Lebanese.
The office building is a mixture of Arab architecture, Italian architecture, which is typically the Lebanese mix.
Sarge is, as far as we could make it, authentically proportioned to the arches in historic buildings in Lebanon.
We have at the offices a very old mosaic, actually pre-Christian, which is more than 2,000 years old, which came also from Tyre. It's a beautiful mosaic representing the goddess Europa.
It was shipped over here to be exhibited at the pavilion of the World's Fair. And it was after the fair was over, it was crated up and shipped down here at my request so I could use it in the building. And I determined that the best place to use it would be in this entrance. It was set down and built with the floor being terrazzo. They were all worked as one unit after it was set in place. And the terrazzo was worked up to the edge of the mosaic.
And we also have quite a few fossil stones from Lebanon, which usually attract the attention of small children who visit us, because we have quite a few visitors from schools and pupils, and they are attracted by anything related to dinosaurs. We have part of Baalbek, which has been placed here, and the other one is a sarcophagus from Tyre, from Lebanon. Both are about 2,000 years old, and they are probably the oldest stones in the city. Anywhere you dig in Lebanon, you usually are confronted with 6 or 7 layers of archaeological treasures, because we have had so many civilizations which have been there. The residence has a large number of Lebanese paintings, mostly purchased in the 40s by Charles Balak and his wife. And they have become now a very expensive lot because they are quite museum pieces. The artists were Douaihi, Gemayel, and Unsi, which are all of them very prestigious Lebanese and European painters. On top of that, we have an original piece by Khalil Gibran, which is also a very expensive and beautiful piece. And we have many reproductions of Khalil Gibran. We have an entire room, which is consecrated to Gibran Khalil Gibran. As you know, Gibran Khalil Gibran is a Lebanese painter who lived for a long time in New York, and he has written some very well-renowned books, such as The Prophet and others.
This building actually represents the finest moment of my architectural career in Washington. It's a building that I feel is a monument that I can leave behind. It's something that I did which has ties back to my ancestral ties. I tried to make it with as much Lebanese identity as I could, so that anyone who knew would probably say, that's a Lebanese building.